As a child, I was always a huge fan of role-playing games. I started out with Dragon Warrior, which I had actually gotten for free from Nintendo Power whenever I had subscribed. Later on, I rented Final Fantasy I for the NES and was a huge fan of it. Never bought the game until I got significantly older, but I did finally manage to get a copy later on. But after all that, I had a friend who loaned me copies of Final Fantasy 2 and 3, and I'll tell you what, he was awesome for letting me loan those games long enough for me to actually sit there and beat them both, which were both amazing. Well, after all this, I ran into an odd little game called Chrono Trigger sitting at the rental store that I used to always rent games from out at Crossroads Video. I rented it, picked it up, and I was just completely floored by the storyline, the battle mechanics, especially the game music. The game music for being a Super Nintendo game was just incredibly intricate. It really surprised the hell out of me. But, you know, I'd mentioned the battle system. Why I mentioned that is because games like Final Fantasy, Dragon Warrior, they take you to a different screen for your battle scenes. In Chrono Trigger, everything is seamless. You just go straight into the battle, you get out of the battle. You can see the enemies on screen instead of having a random battle, so if you don't want to feel like screwing with a random battle, just walk right by them. Which really is a neat factor, and the storyline is really just a killer storyline, with the entire idea of time travel and, you know, things that you do in the past affects the events in the future, and you can actually go back and forth and look at these changes. What you're actually checking out right now is one of the coolest scenes in the game, in my opinion, which is the battle with Magus. Magus is probably my favorite character in the game. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy VI, if you remember Shadow, Magus is probably Chrono Trigger's version of Shadow. Which, just one of the many reasons why I really get into this game. I really enjoyed this battle scene too, the music with it and everything. It just sets the mood so well. What I didn't show beforehand was the actual intro, whereas you start out in the room where it's completely dark and these lamps light up as you walk across them. It's just, it really gets you in the mood for the battle, which was incredibly nuts coming from a Super Nintendo game. I mean, to me, it had more atmosphere than even Final Fantasy VI. In 2009, Japan got a newer version of the game released on the PlayStation 1. This version had bookends almost with anime cutscenes that were really well made. They were made by the same guy that did the Dragon Ball Z cutscenes. For us guys over here in the United States, we got a port of this in, I believe it was Final Fantasy Chronicles, released for the PlayStation 1 in 2001. A big issue with the PlayStation version, though, was that there were horrible load times coming in between the battle scenes and whatnot, which weren't really present in the Super Nintendo version, which really killed the game for a lot of people. They had about a whole lot of time to play. what you're watching here is the battle with the final boss of the game, Lavos. He's really the central character of the storyline. A lot of people think Chrono is. To me, your central character needs to be the villain. In this case is Lavos. Lavos is considered like an alien or something or whatever, who's actually been altering events throughout the time to where more or less he can destroy the planet and feed off of it. It's a kind of a weird, unique storyline for this game, but he's always more or less the main target. You don't know of him eventually throughout the game. You learn of him maybe a 16th of the way through or something, but you're always working up to more or less this final battle with him, but there's always small little quests that kind of distract you from the main idea. But one unique thing I like about this is just simply there's always something, you know, some kind of little side quest to take on, but it all builds up until you finally get to your main battle with Lavos. But one thing I really like about this setup is that even though you've got this small build-up, you can actually fight him almost any time during the game. There is a point that will take you straight to the final boss battle, and from there, you know, it's just based off your leveling and skills if you can beat him or not. Or, if you are playing on New Game Plus mode, you can actually go to the final battle at any time you see fit, which is really a wild little aspect. And whenever you're playing in New Game Plus mode, the time that you beat Lavos actually determines the ending of the game. This is one of the few role-playing games that had multiple endings back in the Super Nintendo days. If I remember right, there are over 10 endings for the game, which is really just a wild accomplishment for, you know, all the work that they managed to do on the Super Nintendo. You can really tell that the producers of this game are almost like a combination of the Amalgamation team and the Dragon Quest team. But anyway, just wanted to make this a quick feature. This is probably in my top 3 Super Nintendo games of all time. I appreciate y'all watching, and